So here we go. Is that how we start?
I will introduce you because we're on the air already. Welcome to everybody to Astrology Unplugged. I'm Rick DiClemente, and tonight we have a wonderful guest, Linda Varos, with us, who does so many different kinds of things. And I really don't have a lot to say at first, but I will be chipping in here and there, and we'll have time for questions for her. I've known Linda for many years. She used to operate a local healing center called the Light Ring many years ago, which was a wonderful place. And as being an Aquarian as she is, she of course was way ahead of her time. Linda and we just sort of happened into this recently because I've been getting more and more into the quantum nature of us. When you go inside, it's not just us in this little skull thing here. There's a whole lot happening, and Linda and I just sort of happened where she's our guest, and I'd like to introduce you to Linda Varos.
Thank you very much, Rick.
I've been reading for Linda and her girls for many years, and Linda is going to talk to us tonight about the Rainbow Connection. Sounds a little bit like Kermit the Frog, but I was just reading your story. I would like for you, if you wouldn't mind, to start with that story and give us kind of a connection, how it leads to tonight, the story where you were talking to spirit and you said you wanted some kind of sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it might be more better served if I start with a couple of the events that happened to me in childhood that kind of got me here.
That's fine.
If that would be okay.
It's all yours.
Okay. Well, hello to everyone, and I'm really thrilled to be here this evening, Rick. So we've known each other, you're right, a very long time, and maybe longer than you remember. We'll go over that. I remember back maybe a little further than Light Ring and the Fairy Festival. I think probably maybe 8 years before that. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. But really, I was really excited about coming on this evening because I wanted to talk about the connection of the importance, really, of recognizing ourselves as a soul. And the information that was given to me that shows how important that connection, the awareness of that connection is in connecting us to, and that's our full spectrum rainbow self, our soul. When we're in alignment with ourselves, when we're in balanced state. And that connection then connects with the arc of the bow, the rainbow that was promised to us by the divine as a covenant of support and information. And that I have found is really representative of the divine stream of information that we all have access to, but we struggle with how to tap into that. Some people call that the Akashic Records. And so it's been really exciting the way this information has been unfolding for me in the last really only 6 months. Prior to that, in childhood, I had two experiences that really kind of set me off on this journey where I have always been in my life aware of living in both worlds and trying to walk in both of them, sometimes not very successfully, sometimes successfully. When I was about 6 years old, my sister and parents and I moved from an apartment to the country, to an old stone house in the country with a good bit of acreage, lots of farmland around. Now it's suburbia, but then it was all farms. And I was, playing outside and sort of drawn to go to a clearing area on a sunny day. And when I stepped into it, everything became alive. But it's sort of like those dioramas where the paper is all cut out and you see the different layers. And that's what it looked like the plants that were near me, everything started moving. And everything was moving at a different rate of speed. And it all gave off its own energy field, which I could see. I was standing there mesmerized. It was absolutely beautiful. And while I was seeing this, this just amazing, beautiful feeling of support and love poured through me. And in that moment, I became aware of the fact that, and this was a thought I had, and I never forgot that this thought came into my head. Oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like all the time, but we don't see it and nobody talks about it. And so when I left that spot and went into the house, I know that I never mentioned it to anyone. I just, at 6 years old, you have an experience, you don't really talk about it. You don't think, it's just that happened. And I feel it from that moment. I became aware of energy fields, but of course I didn't realize what that was for many years. And the following year, I had a near-death experience. And we had a stairwell in the house, and it was one of those where you come down this flight of stairs and there's a landing, and there was a radiator, an iron radiator on the landing with a window over it, and then the next flight of stairs going down. And I was a rambunctious 7-year-old running upstairs, and as I ran, I got to the top of the steps, and my toe caught, and I started flying headfirst down the stairwell to the radiator. And I distinctly recall having a sadness come over me because I knew my head was going to hit the radiator and I was going to die. And in that instant, that sadness came over me. A set of hands on either side of my ribcage grabbed me and pulled me straight down. There was no whiplash. My feet were behind me, I think, before that point, or at least not in front of me. And it sat me straight down, just seated perfectly in the middle of the stairs. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so glad, I'm so glad they caught me. And I could feel these hands around my ribcage. I could still kind of feel them there when I think about that. And in that moment of what I recognize now was gratitude that I was experiencing, this incredible force of love poured through me, filled me up, like it's so hard to describe. And I was just so overwhelmed with this wonderful experience and feeling and love. And so then I thought, well, who caught me? And I turned to see who it was, and there was, of course, no one there. And then I got scared. And when I became afraid, and again, I've reflected on this many times over the years, but it didn't dawn on me for probably 15 years that when I realized no one was there and I became afraid, this fear started pouring up from my root chakra up the spine. And as it did, that wonderful feeling that came down through my crown, it left, and I became filled with fear. And I jumped up and I ran downstairs to tell my mother, and she stood there, mouth agape, like, I don't know what to say to this child, and just said, honey, you have the most vivid imagination. Which at that point I immediately knew I had nobody to talk to about it because I was so close with my mother, So that kind of set the stage. Within probably a year, we realized that we had spirits that lived in our house with us, one in particular that my father named Esmeralda. Everyone was aware of her. There was a lot of poltergeist activity, nothing harmful. It was very friendly, and she got blamed for, anybody couldn't find anything, so it became kind of a joke. When the keys were missing, my dad would be excuse me, damn Esmeralda, whatever. She would get blamed. And then in my 20s, I had an out-of-body experience, and my guides showed up, a whole group of them. So I have really walked and attempted to walk and understand and study this other realm through all the world religions and through the Christian faith that I was raised in.
One thing I want to say to you all, she's an Aquarian. She has moon very close opposite Neptune. This kind of thing is very common with people with major Neptunes. Neptune opposite the sun, Neptune squared the sun, Neptune rising in the chart. You are not, in most cases, You are not going to have these kind of experiences unless you got a connection to Neptune or Pisces energy. Now, there are a lot of people that have the connection to Neptune, and they get it real twisted, and they go off into la-la land with drugs and alcohol. And a lot of those are having valid experiences. They don't know how to categorize it. But I'm telling you that I've seen thousands of situations like this, and she's using it as highest function. So the ultimate is to have the Neptune connection and also have in your chart enough Earth in your chart so you can maintain on this level. But I wanted to interject that since it is an astrology show and validated that it is true. And when these Neptune people tell me stories, I listen. Go ahead, dear.
Thank you. I didn't know any. That's interesting to know. So now jumping forward, I have spent, as I said, all these years working on, it's been like my job, really, in a way, because I've been exploring the adventure of discovery and with this mission of I want to know more, I want to know more, I want to know more, and I want to share it because I've been guided to help people. And so, I did start reading for people in my 20s. Again, that wasn't something I chose. It kind of just fell.
What kind of reading? Tarot?
I started off, just kind of telling people what would come to me. These were, mostly my friends.
Right.
And then people started calling me and asking me for advice. And I remember my mother listening one day and saying, why are people calling you? You're 18. You don't have experience. Why do people keep calling you? And I'm like, I don't know, Mom. It just comes. I don't know where it comes from. And then because I had 12 years of Catholic school, I was afraid of the tarot. Yeah. However, I had a mystical librarian that set me off onto a course of studying all the world religions at one point. And so I really started that in about the 8th grade and exploring and experiencing all the other world religions because I wasn't satisfied with the dogma. I felt very uncomfortable with the dogma, right. But yet I felt very connected to specific saints, with Jesus in particular, with Holy Spirit, who I struggled with trying to get to understand. And I asked for guidance with that. And it took many years before I got answers. But when they came, again, they were quite fascinating experiences, which I plan on sharing, by the way, because I have a Rizuku online that I'm setting up to do sort of monthly informational classes and video and that sort of thing, where I can share more of these experiences.
And people, they can find you on Facebook too, right?
Facebook and on my website, lindavaros.com.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the evolution of experiences for me, I'm kind of a slow learner. Like some people have one major life event, like some horrible, God help them, some awful disease or, getting hit by a truck or something like that, where they have to really work, that's like their tool, right? To learn, their opportunity to open their eyes and learn that they are a higher being, that they're more than the vehicle they're walking around in. Okay. And for me, because I always knew that I would do something important when I was older, and I'm clearly there. And this is the time for me to share. And so I think that my series of experiences that have been lifelong have been an opportunity for my guides, for me to ask, and for my guides or Holy Spirit to provide me with a tool that I could try and play with and see how it worked for me. And so I have this entire series of tools, and that's what I'm sharing. I share with my clients as depending on what they need when they come to see me. But now it's time for me to really get it all out there as I'm older, and I can't just keep seeing people one-on-one, and that be the only people that I'm able to share the information with. So fast forward now to this year. This summer in particular was very stressful from my family, as you all know. So there was a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And I was also had been struggling for a number of months. How do I take all this information and put it out there in a way that makes sense? Because there's so much of it. I've been writing for so many years. How do I narrow this down? And so I've been asking, and I've been asking, and I've been asking, but I'm also in the middle of an incredibly exasperating and stressful situation with a family member that I was trying to help and constantly be available for, and was not being able to help resolve the situation because of all the elements involved. And so I realized one night that as I was going to bed every night, I was feeling kind of heavy, depressed almost when I'm going to bed, and I was having a very hard time sleeping. And again, I asked, how do I put all this information together, and how can I help my family member? And the next 5 days, I had every day a rainbow. Every day there was a rainbow, those 5 days in a row. Now, I know that this spring, we had a lot of rainbows. A lot of people saw rainbows. But I will say that one thing I have discovered is that Holy Spirit has a great sense of humor. And I love that. I think that's the thing that I love the most about it, really, is whenever they kind of do something humorous. And so on the 5th day, my dear sister took me out of town to get a break from all the anxiety and stress. And being an artist, I decided that I was going to go and sit by the lake and do some sketching. And I don't like to sketch buildings or structures, but, there was a lighthouse there. And I thought, well, I'm just going to sit here and sketch the lighthouse. So I'm sketching it. And as I'm sketching it, and this was day 5, right in the middle of the sketch, I look up, and not only is there a rainbow over the lighthouse, but it starts on the left side of the lighthouse, and it arcs, right over top of it. And of course, I'm on the edge of a lake. There's this vast expanse of sky, but the rainbow, is right there. So I just started to laugh because it was very clear to me at that point, this is a message, right? And of course, I work with Reiki. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I work with crystals, and I work in people's energy fields. And I understand that, we're quantum energy field that we're dealing with, and both, globally and on a personal level. But it didn't dawn on me until after I started seeing those rainbows, the connection between that and the chakras. All of a sudden, it just, boom, they matched. And on the 6th day, this was the final event of this series, I went to bed, and I had my guides come to me early in the morning. Okay, if I have a good night's sleep, I will connect before I wake up, and they'll be very specific. And I hear a voice, and this was a male voice, and they showed me a rainbow over my bed. Okay, but the rainbow wasn't arced, it was flat. It was flat across my bed, and they told me that I needed to start going to bed being grateful for something. Not in the morning when I get up, and at that point I'll name a couple things I'm grateful for to start my day. But this was, do this before you go to bed, and it's going to shift your whole day tomorrow. It's going to shift the way you sleep and how we can connect with you while you're sleeping. You've got to make this your grateful bed. Which, the Grateful Dead, right? I cracked up. I mean, that's another little and at that point, everything just started rushing at me throughout my day. I'm just getting more and more information. It's just showing up. My rainbow book that I bought in 1972, I went to a shelf to get something. Why it was there, I don't know, because I haven't seen it in years, and it wasn't on that bookshelf to my knowledge, but there it was, and so it's just this series, and it's full of information, wonderful information. about the rainbows and how everything is in sevens. You know, it used to be the 7 planets, and the planets all have their own color, right? The chakras, the 7 chakras, they each have their own color, the 7 days of the week, and the promise that of with the rainbow in the sky. You know, whenever God says to Moses, "I'm giving you this as a gift, as the covenant between God and mankind, that I'm always there for you." And when I read that, I knew immediately that that was what I've always called the divine stream.
Well,
The Akashic.
it sounds to me like you are shifting, advancing and shifting, and we can certainly see in the public people are getting more and more into this. They got different names for it. What are you doing now that's new? Because I'm finding the people I work with are being required to be meta teachers. They're not teaching people, they're becoming teachers of teachers. So what are you doing at that level?
Well, I'm beginning to work much more in the kinetic energy field of people, of my, you know, I've always scanned people. They had me scan people from years ago. I've been scanning people's energy fields and using that as my readings. And I forgot to tell you that I did get into tarot in the 20s because that just happened as well.
Of course. Yeah.
And studied with John Yelland, who used to be on KDK radio, and he was losing his eyesight, and he was told to take on 12 students. And I walked into the store one day, and he read my cards and said, "I want you to be one of my students." And Harriet Freelander said, you know, I walked out because my Catholic thing was vibrating in my head, you know, and I went back a couple of days later, and Harriet approached me. She owned the Sign of Aquarius bookstore. She was the president then of the Pittsburgh Astrological Association, and we were very close. And she said to me, you know, I was like 21, I guess. And she said, John told me he invited you to be a student, you know, to learn tarot. And I said, yes, I don't know. I'm interested, but I'm hesitant, you know. And she said, honey, if John asked you to be a student, I highly recommend that
She's
you
the
do
one
it.
I started with too.
I know, because I think that's where I met you.
Probably.
So in any case, now I keep looking up because I went to print out my notes, and of course the printer didn't work. So that they're stuck on my blind behind behind my computer, and I don't want to forget anything. But the quantum energy field and the bioelectromagnetic energy field of the human body. I'm working more in that field now, and I'm beginning to not only want to work with people that are beginning readers, but also people who are beginning energy workers, because I want them to understand that they have to move beyond their ego in order to be effectively helping people. You know, they need to be directed to the divine. They need to open themselves and set themselves aside and ask to be worthy to step into that stream of information and make it available to their clients without their ego getting in the way.
Let me mention something about that and see how you feel. And I think this is poignant. I can't tell you how many people at the end of their readings want to know, but how do I do it? But what do I do? But how do I do it? What are my instructions? They're looking for a specific avenue, and it doesn't come to us that way, I don't feel. But what I've been finding is this rather dramatic statement of getting rid of the ego and then it'll come. I think that I got into that kind of hyper thinking in the early days with Ram Dass, and there was this feeling of black and white, get rid of the ego, then it comes. Well, getting rid of the ego is a massive job, a lifetime undertaking. What I'm finding now is just try to get it to shift a little. Just ask for help. So one thing we don't do is ask for help, because he will help you. I'm speaking of the Holy Spirit. He will help you, and also you don't have to move it real far. Just get it moving a little bit, and then all of a sudden, there's like this force in the unconscious that wants to tell you so badly, but it can't get through to you because you got a rigid concept of who you are and how that news is supposed to come. You don't know how it's supposed to come. Now, are you finding something similar to that?
You mean in terms of
The whole process.
The whole process. Well, when people ask me, because I'm a clairvoyant medium, I usually get some piece of information that specifically is helpful to them.
So you hear, you see it, clairvoyant.
It depends. I get, most frequently, I get like a TV screen in front of me that I can see through, and I get the image on there. And then with that, I will get a word imprint that will come with it. That's probably the best way I can describe it.
There's the Neptune. Right there.
Okay. And then, you're absolutely right. Asking for that. I mean, if I sit down before every reading and ask to be worthy to receive information for the people whoever I'm going to be reading for or with. I also invite in their family member, deceased family members, their loved ones, and their guides, but only those who have their highest good as their intention. I also invite all of my people in, only those who have my highest good as their intention. And then I ask for a protective circle around all of us. And then I ask for the channel to be open so that I can receive the information they need for their highest good. And the final thing I say is, not my words, but yours. So
the one thing I'm having great difficulty with, having been raised a Catholic, is the unworthy statement. And I don't want to get into an argument about it, but
yeah,
I will not sing the bagpipe song where you talk about saved a wretch like me. I won't sing it because of that line anymore, even though it's a beautiful song.
Well, I
think that this unworthy thing is something that has haunted us too long. It's time for it to go to bed. I understand what you're saying is you're seeking and reaching out for the purity, but I can't see Holy Spirit saying, I can't give you that yet because you're not worthy. I think it's something inside of ourselves.
Oh, I don't feel not worthy. I feel that we're all worthy.
Yeah,
right?
I understand, but I think we need to point that out because I think some people could get the message, which is like the old message that we're trying to get rid of. That's all I'm saying.
I really feel that it's to help me get out of the way.
Yeah,
and open that channel and let that come down. So help me with this, right? Because I don't want to be in there saying, let me prescribe something for you. I mean, I might say to somebody, hey, I've had this experience, and so let me share with you what I've done that has worked for me. Okay. But for the most part, that's not why I'm there as a medium clairvoyant reader. I'm there to tap into what comes through for them. So, I hope did that answer the question enough?
Yes, please continue. You're right on track.
Okay. The interesting thing about the ego, well, let me say this about the soul, okay? What I've come to know about the soul. The soul is absolutely perfect, in balanced, full spectrum, rainbow and being. That's who we are. We're not a little spark of light. We are this quantum energy field that is part of evolution, just as the creator is part of evolution. The creator is creating the evolution. Okay, that's from my perspective. And that we're part of that. It's not possible to be disconnected. The part that's disconnected is the human side. And with the human side comes the pre-programming. It's like we have a vehicle. And I really want to take everybody through a walk here in a minute, like a guided.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that. You're going to take us through a guided kind of a guided meditation tonight.
Well,
Something.
it's not a meditation, it's kind of a guided tool.
Well, we're ready to
Help
do that.
us.
We'll do that whenever you would like.
Okay. So getting back to how the perception of the human vehicle, okay? So the human vehicle was pre-programmed, and the pre-programming is the brain, the part of the brain that has us always going back, thinking backwards, belittling ourselves so that we look backwards, we're reviewing something, we're revisiting things, we can't ever resolve them because we keep going backwards. Okay, the purpose of that, and that's a pre-programming mechanism, and that is within us for propagation of the species, because if we move forward, we're moving into the unknown. And what happens in the unknown? What happens in the unknown is the opportunity for this living part of the species to meet its end. And the pre-programming is set to keep that from happening. So we have to understand that we need to recognize ourselves as a soul and begin to connect to that, because once we do, and it's a process, you know, there's a step and then it'll expand, and there's another step and it'll expand more, and information begins to flood into you, and you begin to get a download that it takes people years when they're meditating to get. You can get it in, I'm in the point now where within 1 minute, I can be fully connected in the download, okay? And I believe everyone can, but you have to find that space where you're comfortable and finally recognize that you're residing within a vehicle. And so I'd like to do that. We can do that now. If you'd be interested in having that experience, I would ask you all to let's take a couple nice deep cleansing breaths and blow out. Just settle in your bones and relax. And feel your breath, you know, rising and dropping into your chest, and just let your hands relax. It's always wonderful to put your palms up when you're relaxing. And so with your eyes closed, I'd like you to slowly move your eyes back and forth. Do that a few times until you can recognize a shift in the light on the other side of your eyelids. But keep your eyelids closed and do that gentle movement back and forth. Now, once you recognize that there's a shift in light, I want you to think about the fact that you're moving your eyeballs. You're moving the muscles that move the eyeballs back and forth. And that's allowing you to see this shift in light. And with that awareness that you're moving your eyes, I want you to notice that you're behind your eyes, moving your eyes. Get a sense for how that feels, that you're behind your eyes, moving your eyes. You're within your body. Really connect to that sense that you're sitting within this wonderful, magnificent vehicle that you have chosen to have this human experience in. And you can stay with that. You can repeat this exercise until you really feel that connection strongly, until you suddenly get a sense that there really is two of you. You can open your eyes now.
Makes me
That's a,
makes me think so much of Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul, where he keeps talking about we are embedded deeply behind all of this. Same thing.
well, I feel that we're not just embedded, but that's our soul
And we
expanding
it
outward.
exists there, yes.
Expanding outward, and these are the layers that we see with the the Carillion photography, or those who can see auras. I see them, but I don't see the colored part, which I find is interesting. The outer energy field.
Don't you think that the plethora of people talking about these things now, if you go on the internet, on YouTube, there are just zillions of people with stories
Boy,
about
yeah.
this. It seems to be coinciding at the same time that things are getting so dire in the world, in the environment, with the climate. It's
Yeah.
almost like we've run to the end of that ramp. We can't go any
Mhm.
further on that capitalistic, materialistic plane, and this other plane is coming. How do you put it?
Well, I feel it's a quickening,
Yeah.
and that's sort of what happens before you give birth. Any woman who has given birth knows they even use that word, quickening, as the body is preparing to deliver the child. And so I'm not really sure how that's going to apply to us. I mean, I'm both, I have no fear of crossing over, but by the same token, I'm not really ready to, I feel like I'm not ready. And I certainly don't necessarily want to be here at the last moment, I don't think, but I don't know, Rick. It's why I really pay attention to you as the astrologer talking about these events coming. Now, I have to say to you, you're a Capricorn, and you get pretty heavy about it. And I am listening to Kermit singing that song. I'll be honest with you. And in fact, it was in my head. It overtook my dream time for probably 2 weeks. I couldn't get rid of it. But there you are. There, Western Pennsylvania Fairy Festival, 2006.
I
Was
don't
that
I don't have that like that on my eye either.
You know what? We never figured that out. I think it was a little orb. I wouldn't be surprised.
You can see here
Well,
there are
although
diaphragm from the camera right here. I don't know what happened there, but it was certainly a lot of fun.
yeah, it was a
I
lot
was
of
the
fun.
Queen's astromancer.
Yes, you are the astromancer. I think you should walk around wearing that. Why not?
Well, I'm about at the point where I'll do it. I'll do anything. That's okay. Maybe I'll do it on the show some night. I should have
I
done it
think that,
on Halloween. Oh boy.
yeah. No.
Anyhow, what do you do, Linda? I know you work with clients like I do, and many of us do. There are so many people coming to me with, I can't quit my job and do what my bliss says.
Mm-hmm.
Want to do what my bliss says. And, you want to say to them, if your faith is deep enough, you can quit and it'll work out. But yet there's a kind of a feeling that they have to go at their own pace until they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that issue?
I'm getting the people who are stuck in bad relationships. A lot of
That's
that.
absolute number one. That's
I'm
number
getting.
one. That's
They,
got to go.
yeah,
You get rid of that, and your life will just go woo.
yeah. A lot of partner abuse. There's a lot of verbal abuse happening, and people who are staying either with their employer who's abusing them, or their life partner. But people come to me when they're at a crossroad and they're almost ready to make the leap. I don't know if you find that.
Or they come to you when it's too late. Yeah, I'm having the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to listen to people when they say they've been married 30 years, 31 years, and they've been through that 28th year doorway, and you ask them, what happened 2-3 years ago? And they say nothing. Then you say, what happened 2-3 years ago? And they say, oh, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. But what happens is they're married, and all of a sudden they're married in a they may as well have two different apartments, and they're living separately, but they're still together. And that's a very dangerous sign when they're living together, but they're not together, and they haven't used that 28th year to repair the problem. And it's people keep asking me this question less and less. When is Mr. Wright coming? When is Mrs. Wright coming? Miss Wright coming? He's coming when you let go of the other one.
Right.
Not let go of the right one, but let go of the wrong one, because it's just keeping you all bound up.
Well, I think what I have found and what I usually get for people is that they need a break. They need to know themselves. And if they don't know themselves, if they don't get rid of that and honor themselves and then get to know themselves again, so they can shift who they are, then the person they want it can't come to them yet.
Well, don't you think we're at the end of this period that grew up with Leave It to Beaver and Father Knows Best? We're at the end of that lie, that con of you do this and you get married and you'll be okay, and then have kids and you'll be okay. I walked by some people today talking about they wanted to get married and start a family, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, think about this. Get married, okay, but do you really want to bring a child in now? Do you want to? Think about this. Don't think of you. Think about the child. Do you want to bring a child into the school systems now with the society the way it is? Just think about it.
But there are children who want to come in, Rick.
Well, I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it at all. But I find you got to be pretty brave to come down here, don't you?
Yeah.
You got to be.
Well, that's what we need to awaken from, right? Awaken, realize that we don't need to do this anymore.
I don't know anything. I hear these things about coming back and learning lessons over and over and over and all this, and reincarnation, and all I know is I don't know anything. I know astrology pretty well, but I really don't know. We get Stephen Poplin on here, and he talks about past lives, and he talks about all these lives in between lives, and all I can say is, the better for you, buddy, but I just don't know. I just don't know. And I feel kind of good, like listening to Nick Garandes, who tells us to give it up. Give up knowing. Give up feeling like you have to know. And you'll still survive, because like you're saying, there's this other part of you that's much bigger and that's sure of itself, and it knows itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the other thing is the knowing part. Maybe this is what he's talking about. But I recognized it because I myself was stuck there a long time ago, where if only I could know why, I could let go of it and move forward. And the reality is 98% of the time, you're never going to know why.
You're not going to know why.
And you have to let go of that and say, okay, I'm never going to know why. It happened because it happened, and I have to move forward now. I have to let go of that and move forward. If I want to move forward, I have to be willing to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck in that same loop over and over and over again. And that's a talk that happens very often, because that's a very common human hurdle,
Tell me all the time that they're stuck. They say they're stuck, and I just don't believe that they're stuck. I believe that they're holding on because they're not ready. They're still holding on because they're not ready. And boy, when you're ready, you're ready. Everybody out there with hands, everybody out there, are you all in this vicinity where you're about ready to let go of something? Do you feel this new stage is upon you, that you're letting go of an old one and ready to leap forward? How many people feel something similar to that? Okay, that's very good. Linda's, I'm sure you'll want to look her up, lindavaros.com. She's a real good guide. As you can tell, she's one of the really sincere, real types. She's not just trying to, it's not a wannabe. I see a lot of people that are wannabes, and you can sense with Linda that She's been around a long time. She's fought the fight. You know, I mean, you've been through the lessons.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
it's coming to us in so many ways. It's so exciting. But well, look, bless her heart. Look what Marian Williamson's trying to do. She's not going to get anywhere. But look what she's trying to do to introduce the Course in Miracles in the middle of a presidential race. It's a remarkable thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody needed to have the voice of
Right.
sanity.
Yeah,
Really.
that's right. And
Yeah.
put the love word in there. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
They talk about love. Talk about bombs.
Yeah. 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 I agree.
Well,
I don't.
I want to reserve some time here in case anybody has questions for you. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Yeah. If anybody has a question for it, just raise your hand and I will. We're still recording. This will be on YouTube, and I do want to put this. Up for people while we have a moment. If you want to join us live any week, you can just go to starself.com. That's my website, starself.com/unplugged. That will link us if you want to join us at 8 o'clock live. And also, I want to take this moment to, since it's a little pause in the action, to mention that our guest coming up next week, 2 weeks from now, phenomenal guest, Linda Hill, who has done the Sabian symbols. This book was done a long time ago, The Meaning of Each Degree, by a psychic, and she has taken it much, much, much further and gives much more definition to each degree. She's Australian, she's remarkable, and she's the voice of the Sabian symbols. The Sabians were a group of people that lived in the Iran area at that time. Then the Reverend Gray King will be back with us on December 12th doing his spiritual mediumship out of Lilydale or out of Florida, wherever he's kind of bounces back and forth between the two. Then on January 9th, we will have Leanne Fortunato Heltzel, who will be talking to us about getting in sync with that quantum self that's out there ahead of us. But anyhow, if you would like to ask Linda a question, just raise your hand and I'll be glad to link the two of you. Yes, Marcia, let me get you. You're on with Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Marcia.
I loved what you said about the humor of the
Holy Spirit.
Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious. You talked about that you would like to work, or you do work with new energy workers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in talking to you.
Okay. Oh, wonderful, Marcia. I would love that.
And because I just felt that it might be nice to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's great. And on my website, there's a lindavaros.com/contact. And I have, there's a form on there, a contact form on there.
Okay.
So, but also through Rick, you could also.
Yes, also. Marcia and I go back to college days, and she's done a lot of massage. What is it called?
Massage therapy.
Massage therapy. Okay.
Massage therapy.
Thank you, Marcia. Other questions from anybody? Come on now. Anybody? What are you saying, Carolyn? Let me get you unmuted. There it is. You're on with Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Carolyn.
I'm very curious about, you say your guides when you go to bed at night, focuses on being grateful and it helps for you to become more receptive. Are there any other additional steps or things that you do so you can form a closer contact or bond or guidance to, I'm quite sure it's about elevating yourself to speak with them and engage in communication. I'm just wondering, what are they telling you? And
Um,
something that we can do ourselves
mhm.
so we can get closer to God in our soul.
So, first of all, if you can follow that little, the little tool that I showed you earlier, that's one thing. And when you use that, it might be helpful to have a light source at one side of you rather than directly in front of you. So that helps you to actually have a more specific shift in the light pattern as that occurs, and that might help you get a better sense of being, within yourself and connect with that feeling. As far as communicating with your guides, I feel that everybody has their own soul language that they will discover. And you discover that by utilizing a number of different avenues, which is some of the tools the whole list of tools actually that I've learned over the years that I'm going to be sharing. But also, just connecting to nature is another way to really like reconnecting. Actually taking, if you take a walk in nature, don't go in with your headphones on, or don't go in and walk and be listening to your brain, but ramp up your hearing and begin to listen to the sounds of nature. That's one step that helps you connect. And also, when you're walking in nature and you're connecting, try to sense a space that might feel attractive to you, that might be like calling you, and go to that area. It might be a tree, it might be a particular, maybe a waterfall or something like that, and stand there and really begin to try to communicate with it and feel where your energy field meets the energy field of that tree. And I have found, and I'm also certified in ecology art therapy, and through the practices that I did with in learning that, I actually discovered that nature will give you answers when you put questions to it. So it's not only, your guides that might be the channel, that's the language, the language of your soul. It might be you're getting street signs and billboards and, messages on your cell phone that were meant for somebody else. And those will all begin to tie into the question that you've asked. But if it is your guides that you want to speak with, the first thing I would do would be, before you go to bed at night, it is helpful to get yourself into that space of gratitude. And I feel that there's a difference between saying, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, because that's a statement. But gratitude is an energy. And the universe communicates in energy, not in words. So if you're having a talk with your guides, or you're having a talk with the Creator, and there isn't a strong emotional connection behind it, you're not connecting. You're sending a message and you're not opening. You're sending a message. It's difficult for the universe to respond to you because of the way you're sending it. Okay? So you want to open that channel through emotional attachment to it.
Very, very good. And I want to mention, thank you, Carolyn. I want to mention that recently I took a couple of pictures and I put them on Facebook, and they were pictures of these trees. They were shaped like a Y. And Linda wrote to me, she said, did you answer it? And I said, what? She said, they're asking you why. Did you answer? I said, well, I'll have to go back and see him and talk to him. I thought that was really good. Jan, I want to ask you a question here. Let me get you unmuted. Jan and I'm trying here on my end. There it is. Jan, do you mind if I talk a little bit about the work we've been doing?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Jan and I have been working together a long time. Jan is a perfect example of what Linda's talking about. And Linda and Jan are good friends. Okay. Jan came out of a lifetime 10 years ago that was very American and very successful, et cetera, and she does a lot of teaching people in the weight room and different exercises and physical strength and physical agility. And I kept seeing in her chart that she was going to gravitate more and more and more away from the physical towards the spiritual. And Jan has done it so beautifully. She has done it so effortlessly because she has not struggled with it. She saw it coming. She saw the distaste that she had in the physical plane. She had a little bit of struggle with that at first. She let go of it more and more. She started to trust as her Neptune part of her. She's got a very strong Mars, and she also has a very strong Neptune and a strong Saturn. So as the Neptune part has opened up for her, she has listened to it more and more. She has gone with it. And she and I are always talking constantly. Anytime either one of us has a sign, we talk to each other and say, what does that sign mean? What does that sign mean? And we're also getting to the point where we don't ask each other that much anymore because we're learning to translate it ourselves. But Jen is an excellent example of somebody who has been pretty worldly in one sense and has leaned very much towards the other. And now what you're finding with her is not ripping the ego away, but the ego is falling away. It's just falling by the wayside as she's starting to incorporate more spiritual energy work into her work. Is that said about right?
I think that's perfect.
Okay. Well, you're to be commended because my reason for bringing you up is a real example of somebody who's really doing it. And what I want to say to people is, and to the kind of question Carolyn asked, these are not far out beings. These are not people hiding on the opposite side of Venus somewhere. These are beings, we don't understand where they are. We don't understand the dynamic. Just talk to them. Just like you're talking to a guy at the bus stop. Talk to them. Just say what you got to say in your language. Tell them how you want the answer. Show me images. Show me examples. But one of the best things, one of the very best things in the Course in Miracles, which I refer to a lot, is the fact that it says, I don't know what I'm doing. Show me another way of looking at it. Show me another way of looking at it. And then let it go, and let the Holy Spirit do the work. What does Nick tell us? Nick Aranda says 3 things in his new book, 3 things. 1, notice when you're not at peace. 2, find out whatever it is, identify it, and let it go. 3, sit back and watch the force, the Holy Spirit, whatever, watch them solve it. Anything you'd like to add, Jan? But I thought you were a really good example of what's going on. Erica, I'm getting to you next. Jan?
It was just a gradual transition, and one that I'm really loving and enjoying. And I wanted to ask Linda a question as well. When you say you connect, is it possible to connect through dreams?
Connect in dreams?
Through dreams, getting messages through the dreams.
Well, that's been probably the most popular tool for my guides to use with me. But I did want to add something to what Rick was saying about just trusting and, asking. Just talk to them and ask. This is true. But I have found also that our guides and our family, our loved ones who've crossed, there's like, they can help us. They can only help us to a certain degree because there's kind of a little bit of a barrier there. It's sort of it's sort of like a HIPAA agreement, right? They can only go so far. So if there's someone that you want to have work with you, I always say, and at bedtime's a good time to do it, ask that person to work. Will you please, I give you permission to work on my behalf. Okay, I'm asking you, and that's like you rip up the HIPAA agreement. You say, you can have access to my life because I know that you're only going to do something for my highest good, and that does help to open it up.
That's very good addition. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jan, for helping us there. I want to move on to Erica did have her hand raised, and she has a question for Linda.
Hi, Erica.
Linda. I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, but I
Oh,
don't know which
okay.
one to ask you
Mhm.
about. I've heard from spiritualists
Speak
that.
up, speak up, please.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
I don't think if I turn my own speaker up, it's going to make my
No,
voice louder.
no, just you're doing fine now.
Okay. I've talked to spiritualists who say that if you really want to hear your loved ones, but you're being very emotional, that they can't get through. So that was one thing. The other thing I've heard is that unless you also include forgiveness on top of everything else you're doing, you're not going to really completely get there. And I was wondering if psychedelics can get you to any of these levels, and whether hypnosis can help you get to any of these levels.
Okay, I didn't get all of the last question. And rather what?
Hypnosis and psychedelics.
Oh, hypnosis. Okay. So the first question, now I'm forgetting the first question.
Because you were saying that it's powerful to be emotional, but I've heard from spiritualists that if you want to get in touch with your loved one, that they can't get through to you if you're being emotional.
Well, okay. That is interesting that there's sort of a dichotomy there, but the only thing I can answer around that is grief. Grief absolutely seems to block the ability for a loved one to get through. Grief is a very heavy energy. It's all consuming, and I think it doesn't leave a blank space for information to come in. You know, as an artist, when you're painting, there should always be a blank space in the canvas or someplace for the eye to be able to travel through. And you know, we're the canvas here. If we're constantly reviewing, what can I do? What can I do to fix it? What can I do to fix it? What can I do to fix it? There's no open space. Okay. And the same thing with your emotions. If you're always focused on your emotions, that's the same thing as being in that verbal energy space, you know, where you're just in that gerbil wheel kind of a thing. So I think that maybe that's how they might be looking at it from that perspective. In terms of psychedelics, I am not a good person to ask about that because, you know, during the 70s, I could walk through a room and go out the other side and I would be higher than a kite. And so I have a very low tolerance to pharmaceuticals and incredibly low. It's almost like I have to take a half of a child's dose.
Maybe that's why you're so psychic.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's connected.
So sensitive that you don't even need those things. You're already there.
I guess. I mean, I've had it offered to me to have ayahuasca, and something just tells me don't go there. But I think for many people, that may be a path that can really, especially if they have layers of things to work through. I think it could be, you know, a way for them to blossom and release that. But I think it could be also a pretty rough journey because
it depends on the person. I have a person that's very close to me who wanted to blow it out, and they just blew it out by the hypertropic breath work.
Okay.
Intense breath work. And then you're crying and the music's playing loud and you're just blowing it out. It's kind of like a primal scream. And this person did it 2 or 3 times. And when it was over, I asked him how he was feeling. He said, I feel like myself again. So these different things, rebirthing is the same thing. I've done that. It's the same thing. All these things, hypnosis, drugs, they all get you to the same place through different methods. We all have different needs at different times. I think one of the holotropic breathwork. Thank you, Kimma. Yeah, holotropic. Anyhow, I think one of the things that's really important here is a lot of us worry so much about the method that we're going to use, the method that we're using. What are the rules of the method that we're not in the process? And one of the greatest things I've ever found is just to sit still by a tree, by a stream, in your chair, turn off all devices. And what I learned from TM years ago, beside the straight course of the Maharishi, etc., is your body is racing all the time. And it's racing, and you're breathing, and you're holding your breath all the time. And as you start to allow your breath to calm down, your metabolism starts to calm down, and you don't have to try to get your mind to think less or the mental monkey to get a little quieter. You just start to allow it to quiet down, and the metabolism slows. And when the metabolism slows, your brain starts to think less, and the thoughts have less of a grasp on you. And then what's sitting there but what Linda's talking about? What's sitting here is the soul level, which is always present. It's always speaking. It's just harder to hear it above our monkey mind.
Mm-hmm.
So they all work. They all work, and they all have their place. And the holotropic breath work would be destructive for somebody, and ayahuasca might be destructive for Linda. Anyhow, I want to wrap the show up now. We've gone over a little bit, which is just fine. But I really think it's been a really great show, and I really thank you, Linda. You've brought us so much, because you probably brought us a lot in ways that you don't even know, but they're so natural to you. They're so easy. You can tell yours is not far out. It's not hey man. It's not woo woo. And I really appreciate you coming on. I'd like for you to come on again in the future. Again, if you people would like to find Linda, you can find her on Facebook. You can find her also at lindavaros.com. She's out of the communities of Pittsburgh area. And this will be wrapped up and put onto YouTube tomorrow sometime. But I appreciate it. And I want to wrap up the YouTube part and send a few things to you. So good night to the YouTubers.